Hey, salam, brother.
Salam alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa
How you
alaikum
doing?
salam. Fine, praise be to
All right.
Allah.
All righty, brother. Well, finally we got this working, and I'm
Yes.
gonna go on and do a little opening, and then it's gonna be with you, okay?
Okay, brother.
All right. Well, in the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the exalted, all powerful, all wise. This is Brother Shareef with the Hour of Power. Please go to Hour of Power with Shareef Hamid,
You can
subscribe,
hear
and
how
share the share. Can you hear me okay, brother? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I can see you and hear you a little breaking up, but I can hear you.
Okay. So finally, we're here with our good brother, Brother John Jamison out of York, PA. And again, this is the Hour of Power. Subscribe and share the channel. And we finally got us all connected, and much anticipated interview to hear from you, brother. So not that you need any introduction, but let the listening audience know who you are, brother.
Yes, sir. This is Salam alaikum with the name of Almighty Allah, Almighty God, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We can never give Allah the thanks and greatness that He deserves, and giving us guidance through all the prophets from Abraham until the last, Muhammad. And I take great honor that Brother Shareef had invited me to share a little bit of my experience on this planet for the past 69 years. And my name is John Jameson, and I've taken on the Muslim name Yahya, which means John, Bilal, which is the first Muezzin, the first caller to prayer. So I felt those two names fitted me well, and I picked up on those names. So I thank you, Brother Hamid, for the great work that you've done in sharing truth with the people of this entire planet and the human family. And it's through venues like this that we can share our stories, that others may be able to find some guidance and some information that will be helpful in their life.
Yes. A pleasure to be speaking with you, brother. We're gonna get right to it. Can you tell the listening audience how you came into Islam when you did? I imagine that was maybe back in the '60s. Is that correct?
Uh, Give me.
What was that, brother?
Yeah, I said, yeah, I missed your question just then. We had a little breakup.
Okay, I said, let the listening audience know how you came into Islam when you did and who influenced you.
Right. Okay. Give you a little background of the thing that sort of shaped my life, that guided me into Islam. Born in 1947, and the, uh, the the neighborhood that I grew up in was predominantly African American, and we had a few Caucasian neighbors, but majority was African American. And this was back in the late 40s. And attended school. When I started school, the schools were just starting to be integrated in the 50s. So I started attending school with Caucasians, but we had a race problem here in York, PA, and just like anywhere else in the country, you may not think it, but there were segregated schools, and I can recall my sister sharing with me that when she was in high school up at William Penn, after school they'd go downtown to the local Woolworth stores. They were all over the country, and we had the same conditions existing. She could not sit at the soda pop counter. She had to go in, get her soda pop, and leave. I can recall the neighborhood, what they called beer gardens at that time. My father, they wanted to buy beer. They had to go to the door, knock on the door, and they would bring the beer to them to the door. They couldn't go get in. So I grew up in an environment where I saw this type of behavior even at my young age. And we were fairly poor family. Believe it or not, we didn't have heat throughout our home that I was born in. No hot and running water, believe it or not. And we got a television late. So that's what sort of shaped my childhood. And then as I became a young man, quite naturally, going to high school, I had ambitions to become a carpenter. I always loved working with wood, and my intent was to uh, take what they call the industrial course at William Penn Senior High School. Wanted to learn to be a carpenter, and I wanted to actually go in business building houses.
Mm-hmm.
And just to show you how these are some of the major things that affected my life, uh, patting myself on the back, I was the best student in my class. And your senior year, you went out into the field to work in the field on 2 weeks, and you went to class for 2 weeks. Well, my teacher, he told me, he tried to get me out on the job site building homes. But because of the negative um, response that he got from the construction companies, they would not allow me as an African American young man to come on the site to learn. And the only company that took me in was Wolf Supply Company, a very liberal company, and they took me in every 2 weeks, and I worked there. And worked as a young boy, worked at the Yorktown Hotel. That was a place where a lot of young African Americans went to work. And I was a bus boy, and that had a big impact in my life because my mother, she had become a single mother, and she was unable to provide the clothes that I liked for senior high. So I got a job working, and uh, God blessed me to work at the Yorktown Hotel, save my little bit of money, bought my clothes to go to high school, bought my own automobile. I was the only African American in William Penn in the late 60s that had an automobile. 56 Chevy convertible, believe it or not.
Uh-huh.
And then I, as fate would have it, fell in love with a young lady by the name of Georgia Banks, and we courted, and we ended up having our first child in my senior year. And then after graduating, I ended up going to work for Caterpillar Tractor. So those are some of the basic things that I went through that most African Americans went through. And I began my sojourn in life. So
So,
now, go ahead.
excuse me. So spiritually, what influenced you to go the path that you did spiritually?
Well, what had happened, being raised up in the church, my mother sent us the church, and even as a young boy, there was something that I heard from the minister that it didn't sit well with me. And I questioned some of these things. I always had a heart to do right. But one song that impacted me, that sort of made me have some problems with the Christian faith, was there was one song that they sang that were in the lyrics of this song. It was written by a slave master that was redeemed, and he wrote this song talking about his conversion from being a tough slave master to his slaves to a redeemed Christian. And one of the lyrics in the song is that he thanked God for saving a wretch like himself. Now, when I heard him sing that song in church, I felt that that did not apply to me, because I did not see myself as a wretch. Now,
Right.
Amazing Grace was the song, Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace.
Mhm.
That song, it had an impact on me, because it was a song of a slave master redeeming himself and seeing himself as a wretch, that he was saved. But I didn't see myself like that. So I had skeptics. So the race riots in Europe, we had a lot of unrest. So my brother, Freddie, I had a younger brother by the name of Freddie. He was in Bedford Penitentiary as a wayward young boy. He became a minister in the penitentiary for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was a well-known minister, and he invited his family to go to the nearest temple that we could find to hear the teachings.
Mhm.
That's what steered me to go to the temple.
And where was that nearest temple, brother?
Now, that nearest temple was right here in York. The minister was Sylvester Lee, and he
Bless his
has
soul.
passed. Bless his soul. He has passed now, but when he passed, I cleaned out his apartment, and I actually have the letters that he wrote to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to get permission to open up a temple in York. I have the letters with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's signature, giving the brother permission to get the teachings in York, Pennsylvania. This letter is dated June 6, 1969. Sylvester wrote to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad answered him and instructed him, gave him permission to get the teachings in York, Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And look at
Now,
this
brother,
one. Look
excuse
at
me,
this
brother.
one.
Now,
Yeah, go ahead.
did he already have members with him, or were you one of the first members?
No, this is before he even set up the temple.
Okay.
The letter said, he asked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for permission to open up a temple in York. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad answered him, I have no objection to you getting the teachings into York, Pennsylvania. He states, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I had been through there several times, long years ago. It's a pretty large town. Go right ahead and try to sell papers there. That was the permission that Sylvester had. Sylvester went door to door. He was from Richmond, Virginia, or out of Virginia. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad instructed him to start selling newspapers first. And then in November, I got a letter, November 6, 1970, setting up a temple. And he instructed Sylvester to start teaching in homes. And then Brother Sylvester renovated the basement of his home that he purchased here in York to establish the first temple. And some of the earlier followers were your father. He came a little later, but there was Brother Benjamin, Robert Simpson of the executive director of Christmas Addicts, Johnny
Wow.
Williams. These were some very active brothers, and they were some of the first ones to be attending the temple there.
Uh-huh.
Now, I came in 1972, and he was having meetings in the basement of his home, but they had raised money, and we were working on a building. So I came in 1972, listened to the teaching, accepted it. A lot of my family members accepted it, and we started. We had purchased a building on College Avenue, and we began to renovate that. And that was the first. The temple was actually started in a home, and then we moved over on College Avenue, where we began to build Islam in York, PA.
Okay.
Now, he the temple really began to grow when we got over on College Avenue, and we got a lot of people coming, and we began the program of Do for Self. We established the temple. We actually established a school, and we took our children out of public school, and we were teaching them at our school that we set up there on West College Avenue. And we had a little trouble with the York City school system, because when Brother Benjamin X, Brother Jamil, when he took his children out of public school and was sending them to the temple school, they arrested him. And I had became the secretary, so I had to go and bail him out of jail, because the York City school had arrested him for taking his children out of the public school. And then me and Brother Sylvester, your little picture in the corner might have popped out. I don't know if you can still hear me or not. But I believe I'm still live. I don't see Brother Shareef in the corner anymore. So
just waiting for him.
Can you still hear me, Brother Shareef?
Take a shot in a mention.
I know I'm still live, I believe. Let me take a little pause here to make sure that I have Brother Shami, Hamid. Oh, I'm here. Okay, I hit that. Invite to program. Okay. Inviting. You back on? You back, Brother Shareef?
Back on. I don't know what happened there, but
Yeah.
I'm back.
Okay, all right, we're back on. But what I was saying, when we established our school, Brother Jamil, brothers, you would call Benny Nolan, Benjamin X, they arrested him. So I had to, being the secretary, I had to go bail him out of jail. And then me and Brother Sylvester went to the Department of Education in Harrisburg, PA, and we explained to them the problem that we were having with the city school system not allowing us to teach our children in our own school. And they gave us a letter to bring back to the York City School Department, and we presented it to the school. And the only stipulation was that we had to teach the lessons in English. And me and Sylvester joked, well, that's the only language we know anyhow, so that wasn't a problem. So we did establish that school. And The temple grew. We opened up a restaurant at one time, Salam Restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
We implemented the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's program of the fish, where we sold fish. We had a refrigerated truck on the streets of York selling 10 and 5 pounds of whiting, headed and gutted fish. And to share with you what really helped shape the York Temple, Minister Benjamin of Richmond, Virginia, and his wife, Sister Clara, they were very close with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Minister Benjamin actually did time with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was one of the ministers that was arrested. And Sister Claire, his wife, was very close to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and very close to Minister Farrakhan. And they were what we call the pioneers. And they came to York and helped us set up our temple. And we pushed the paper through the city. At one time, we had the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's brother come and speak in York. And we also had Joe Tex at one time. He came and spoke in York. So we really saturated the area with Islam. And that was the first big public display of Islam in York, PA.
Quick question for you, Brother John.
Yes, sir.
Were you instrumental in bringing my dad in? Because the listening audience might not know he's passed on now. Bless his soul. Did you help bring my dad in, or was that one of the other members?
Give me that question again. You're breaking up just a little. Try that
Okay.
question again.
I said, since my dad isn't here anymore, many people may not know. Bless his soul. Did you help bring my dad in, Sidney Howard?
Yeah, I recall when your father began coming to the temple, he had previous knowledge of Islam, and then when he heard about the temple there in York, he began to attend the temple there, and he used to come to the FOI classes, and I can recall him bringing you to the temple as a young man. And I can remember you as a young man coming to the temple and sitting there listening to the teaching. So your father had already knew about Islam, and when he found out there was a temple here in York, he began to attend the temple here in York. And he was very, very, very strong believer. I mean, he loved Islam with a passion, and he shaped his life around the teachings, and he did a lot of self-studying to improve his knowledge of Islam. So your father was a very good Muslim brother, man of great character. That was one thing that the people in Europe knew about Brother Sidney, his character. He was a family man. He loved his children. He worked hard. And those are the type of believers that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was attracting. And your father was a great asset to the temple here in York.
What about your store? Was the message from Elijah Muhammad about doing for self? Was that instrumental in you opening your historic store there out Parkway?
Right. That was one of the great things when I came into Islam. The do for self struck me, and we, the believers here in York, we used to attend every Savior's Day from 1969 up until 1975. We attended every Savior's Day, and the do for self struck me. And what I did was, I had a home, I had a home. I bought a home when I was 21 years old. And what I did was I sold my first home and I moved in with my sister to save monies. I worked at Caterpillar Tractor, big major corporation here in York. And what I did was to do for self, to get the capital, to open up Brother John's Grocery. I lived off of the 40-hour work week paycheck. I cut my expenses, lived off of 40 hours a week, all my overtime money, and any extra monies that I could get, I started saving them to purchase my grocery store. Now, the grocery store that I purchased, it was out in the Parkway project area on Pershing Avenue. It was what they call a neighborhood butcher shop. They had a lot of them throughout the cities where they actually slaughtered cattle right in these neighborhood butcher shops. They had slaughterhouses in the back, little grocery store in the front where they sold the meats. This was before the big supermarket. Now, this particular store was burned out during the riots. When the riots broke out in the city, they set that store on fire. And it sat empty for a while. And I spotted that store. And before I even owned the store, the children were going in there, kicking the doors in, as you know, vandalizing the place. When I spotted that store, I took monies and I boarded the store up. I got in touch with the owner and I let him know that I wanted to purchase that store. I know we only have a short time, but I explained to him that I had boarded the store up and I wanted to purchase it. I made a proposal to him that fit my pocketbook. I explained to him how much money I had to put down on the property. And I made an agreement with him to have a 2-year sale agreement. At the end of the 2-year sale agreement, I would go to the bank and get a conventional loan and get a mortgage on the property. Praise be to Allah, the brothers helped me, and to show the listening audience that how we can go into business without getting a lot of capital, because we probably won't get it from the banks. You can go to the bank and get money for a car or some other trinket. But if you go to the banks, normally African Americans asking for a loan for $100,000, $150,000 to open up a business, you can dot every I and cross every T. You probably won't get the loan. So I worked out of my pocket, living off of 40 hours, saving my overtime. I purchased the store 1 year. It took me a whole year to open the store. I renovated a little at a time. And the brothers at the temple, they assisted me in doing that. Now my family is growing at this time.
What year was
sorry,
this?
Go ahead.
What year was this that
was
you were?
19. I purchased the building in 1971.
Okay.
And after a year renovating in 1972, I opened up for business. And they did an article in the newspaper about Brother John's Grocery coming to York, PA. And we didn't sell lottery tickets. We didn't sell pork, quite naturally, because we're Muslims.
Right.
And we didn't sell cigarettes, no tobacco products, none of those vices. And we opened up and I employed people from the neighborhood. Now, the beautiful thing is that Allah blessed me to operate my business. I'm working at Caterpillar full time, but Brother John's Grocery is open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I'm not there. So God blessed me to be able to work with the people in my neighborhood and family members and believers that I manage Brother John's grocery from a distance. And most of the people, there's a lot of people in Parkway that grew up, got their first job at Brother John's grocery. Family members worked at the store.
Quick question for you, bro.
Yes, sir.
Quick question for you. I mean, you said something just now. I mean, everything you've been saying is profound, but what you said was profound. Number one, you said you didn't sell no cigarettes, no lottery tickets, no pork, no alcohol. So we're going to get back on track to what you said. What is your opinion about all these supposed Muslims all around the country opening stores in black neighborhoods, calling themselves Muslim and having pork, alcohol, cigarettes, all the things that the Quran says not to do? That's what they're doing. What is your view or perspective on that?
My advice to them is, if you say you Muslim, just like Christ Jesus says in the Bible, a tree is known by the fruit it bears. A man is known by his works. Now, we say we Christians, we must live up to what Christ taught. We say we Jews, we must live up what the Jewish faith teaches. We say we Muslims, we must live up to that faith. So I stepped out on faith. My objective was not to make money. My objective was to serve God, serve my community, give them the best products that I could bring to that community. I didn't sell the cheapest foods. I sold Hillshire all beef sausage. I sold Purdue choice chicken wings. And God blessed me to be successful because I obeyed his guidance. And the money came. Brother John's Grocery was the most successful neighborhood grocery store in the city of York, in the neighborhood, in a small neighborhood community. God blessed it to create so much revenue that I could have made a living off of Brother John's Grocery. But because me and my wife, Georgia, we had 8 children at that time. So I stayed at Caterpillar for the insurance, but I managed the store from a distance. You Muslim brothers, you should you should not be selling alcohol. You should not be selling these vices. If you're doing that, you're disobeying the guidance of God. And you may make the money, but you have to answer to that on Judgment Day. But my conscience is clear because I know it works. We sold none of those vices, no lottery tickets, no nothing. God blessed us. Brother, we were doing over $250,000 gross sale back when candy was a penny. $250,000. So that shows you that God, Allah sends you your customers. You just obey him. And I make no excuse for these brothers. There's no need for you to do that.
Brother John, you also mentioned something else profound. You said you employed people in the neighborhood, which is another thing that they don't do. You go in these stores anywhere in the country, they're sucking the blood out of the people in the neighborhood, but most of the time the people in the neighborhood don't work there. What process did you go through to bring in the people in the neighborhood? Did someone just come in and say, John, I want a job, and you gave it to him? How did you do that?
Right, that's what I did. A lot of the young youth that came to the store, when they became of age, all my children, I taught them to operate the cash register standing on a milk cart. Young girls and boys from the neighborhood that were young, I taught them how to I had an adult there, but I had a young person from the neighborhood learning how to operate that cash register. To show you how the influence is, I would take a young person from our neighborhood that grew up in the neighborhood, and I had them on a milk cart, and I was teaching them how to operate that cash register. Ring up the milk, ring up the bread, ring up the soda. Now, they give you a $20 bill. Ring up the $20 bill. The cash register would tell them how much change they get. When that cash drawer popped open, brother, them young people, I could see their face light up. They saw all that money in that cash register. That was a great motivator for them, And that's what inspired them to grow up to be responsible young adults. Here in the city of York, if you would do a survey, a lot of young African Americans that are in York that are doing business as young men, my children's age, they have businesses of their own. Brother John's Grocery had a learn and earn program. This made the news. I would give all the children in the neighborhood a nickel for every A on the report card, first marking period, dime, second marking period, 15-cent, third marking period. Fourth marking period, Brother John's Grocery Learn and Earn program gave all the children in the neighborhood 25 cents for all the A's on their report card. One of the young ladies come to my mind, her name was O'Berry, young girl. She was a straight A student. We kept record. Today she's a judge. She's a judge. She went from a lawyer to a judge. And she tells me that Brother John's Grocery influenced her. Young man by the name of Jeff Haynes. His mother told me that as a young boy, he told his mother, Mom, when I grow up, I want to have a grocery business like Brother John. Letting us know as adults, we influence these children a lot. And you have to be careful what you say and do around these children. And you should always set a positive example for these children. So that's what I fault a lot of the Koreans and all these other stores. They should employ people from their neighborhood. But can you blame them? They're looking out for themselves. We should look out for ourselves. But 5 of my children have their own business in this city. 5 of my boys grew up in business, have their own business, and they're making a living off of it. So that's unique. Find a young African American man who have 5 children that follow in their father's footsteps, not necessarily selling groceries, but in business for themselves, and they're good family men.
Right. I believe your daughter Olga said that there was no need to steal. You just told the people to ask, and brother Adrian Boxley said that was Pam O'Berry.
Yeah. How did Brother John's Grocery deal with stealing in the store?
Right.
What did I do? I used my intelligence. Allah blessed me with this idea. I made a tablet shaped like the 10th commandments, a big wooden tablet shaped like the 10th commandments. On that tablet, I put on one side, thou should not steal, the verse out of the Bible. On the other side, thou should not steal, the verse of the Quran. And at the bottom of it, if you need something, ask Brother John or the management. Now, the children, if they were caught stealing, the policy was get their name. When I got off from work, I would go visit the child's parents. And I would go to their house. I would tell them, look, we caught Johnny stealing. He's not a bad boy. It's your responsibility to teach him to steal. Now, his punishment is he's not allowed in Brother John's Grocery for 1 week. But also, his name was put up on that board. His name was put up on that board. Johnny Smith. He cannot come in the store for a week. His name is on that board. All the children knew if your name was on that board, you got caught stealing in Brother John's Grocery. That was the policy. So now one day I come home from work. Brother John, guess what? Guess who we caught stealing in the store? I said, who? Abdullah, my son. My son got caught stealing at Brother John's grocery. I explained to my help, what is the policy? What's the policy? So I put my own son name up on that board. Now, that type of shaming kept the stealing to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And I practiced what I preach. My children were not immune to that. I never spoiled my children. They had to work. And when they went over to the store to purchase something, they had to earn money and go and buy. Now, every now and then I would give them the keys and treat them. But they were taught the value of a dollar bill and the value of work. And a lot of the children from Parkway area, they'll tell you, I got my first job at Brother John's grocery, and I employed the people from the neighborhood. And I put trust in them, made them feel worth, and we were very successful. We've been in business for 24 years. 24 years.
One honorable thing that, not one, but one of the most honorable things you mentioned, Sister Olga said you never called the cops on anyone. You always had a way of trying to correct bad behavior. And strange enough, your son Abdullah, he's one of the first ones I reached out to get a hold of you to do this interview. So thank you, Brother Abdullah, for connecting me with this great man. And Olga also said you gave credit to people in the store.
Yes. Just a minute, Amina. Give me my chart. Just a minute. I'm going to have to plug this phone in because the battery's getting a little low. We're going on the phone. I'm going to plug it in. I got the low battery. Get it out of the bedroom, the charger.
That's for the, it's a different charger.
Is it a different type?
Yeah,
okay, hold on. We're going to put a little juice in this phone.
Yes. Well, I hope everyone is learning from this, brother.
Yes, I pray, and what I'm actually doing is I'm like we were taught. It takes a village to raise our children. These are values from the motherland. We have to continue these great lessons. All these children are our children, and we should see it that way. Did Brother John have it easy? Did I have hardships in my life? Quite naturally. I'll share this with the listening audience because Allah say you will certainly be tried. You will certainly be tried with the things dearest to you. The people in Europe. I had a twin daughter by the name I had a set of twins, Cherie and Sherelle. My one daughter, Cherie, she became a young lady. Got expected in her senior year, but she graduated and she started keeping time with a young man by the name of Cameron. He grew up in the neighborhood, and quite naturally, being young, they wanted to be together. So, they got their own apartment. And what had happened was he had become abusive to her. So she wanted to get away from him. And I talked to Cameron just like he was my son. I said, give him some time, give her some time. Let her go get her own place. And if it's meant to be, you and her may get back together. Well, he couldn't see it that way. We've heard a story. I cannot live without her. He told me, Brother John, I love her so much. I can't live without her. Not knowing that this young man was so distraught of my daughter leaving him, what he did was he tricked her into coming to their old apartment house. She had already left. And to try to keep the friction down, when she moved out of his apartment, I don't know if she was seeing somebody else or not, but to keep the friction down, I moved her out of his apartment into her own place so that there wouldn't be any conflict. You know what I'm talking about, audience. Now, she got her own place. But what he did was he tricked her to come back to their old apartment for a short period of time. I don't know the conversation, but he tricked her into coming into the garage that they had at their place. Unbeknownst to her, he killed my daughter and he killed himself. Murder suicide. That was all over the newspaper here in New York. So I've had tragedies in
Sorry
my
to
life.
hear that, brother.
Yes. And I'll show you how God laid this on my heart. I had no animosity for the young man because I knew he was misguided. No father figure, misguided. And he took an alternative. He was under great duress. But I attended that young man's funeral. And after that young man's casket, I sat in the back of the church. After that young man's casket went past me, I'm telling you this because this is how we have to look at life. After that young man's casket went past, my feeling was I was hurt. But when his family members came to follow his procession out of the church, I got in the middle of that aisle. And every last one of his family and friend member, I hugged them, I cried on their shoulders, letting them know I'm not holding you responsible for what he did. We both victims. Until we learn to do things like this, not only will we not heal, the world will not heal. We have to understand the type of times we're living in. So I lost my daughter to a murder-suicide. Her son, listen to what I'm talking about. Her son became a young teenager. He missed his mother so much. He missed his mother so much because they were so close. He ended up committing suicide himself. He told my daughter, I want to be with my mother. We don't know what's going on in the minds of these young people. We need to try to talk to them to find out what's troubling sometimes. But he missed his mother so much. So now I lose a grandson to a suicide. These are all tests. Do we curse God? No. We may question to understand. We don't question to doubt. We question maybe to understand. But I know that in Islam, just like anything else, we strive for the paradise. So we say they're in a better place than you are now. So I've had my share of grief. Another thing that hit Brother John, me and my first wife, after 16 years of marriage, we end up getting a divorce. And after 2 years of separation, I'm looking for another wife. And as I begin to date, I'm telling you these things, how I proceed, how Islam shaped me and taught me how to think. I knew I wanted a woman who shared the same values that I had, preferably a Muslim. And I dated, and I let the young ladies know I'm looking for a wife. That's my intent. I'm not looking for somebody to shack up with and party. I'm looking for a wife that wants to be by my side. I end up keeping custody of my 8 children because they have 8 kids. Who's going to relocate those kids? So here I'm Mr. Mom with 8 kids, and now I'm looking for a wife. But I figured, who wants a man with 8 children? So I thought I might be single until my last child was born. But praise be to Allah, I'm reading the Quran. The Quran says to the man, marry the God-fearing woman. Tell the man, marry a God-fearing woman. And if you do not, you will be the loser. It didn't say marry a Muslim. It didn't say that she had to be Muslim. It says she had to be God-fearing woman. Allah blessed me with my second wife, Carmen. She's a devout Catholic. She was such a devout Catholic, she wanted to be a nun. That's just show you how God conscious she was. And she married me after 2 years of courting. She married me with 8 children. We put our kids together. We had 10 children. Olga, Raphael, they know the story. But I had setbacks. But you hold on to the rope.
Mm-hmm. Uh, that, I'm just blown away, Brother John. I mean, uh, God is definitely with you. The way you handle the situations with the children and the that was misguided or whatever you want to call it with the store and hiring people in the store. And one of my highlights in my life coming up was working at your store when
Yes,
you
sir.
relocated on what street? Because I've been out of York for a while. What street would that be on the last store that you had?
Persian Avenue, 564 North Persian.
Yes, and
That's where
I
that's where you
remember.
work.
Yes, I remember working there, and I can still say today that's the best job I ever had. Now,
Yes,
someone
sir.
on the outside may be like, "Well, you couldn't have been making but so much or whatever." But again, it's not about the money; it's the principle. I remember having conversations with you, and you clicked me on to some things, spiritually, and you would give me the paper and invite me to Baltimore, and I made sure that every penny that came through Brother John's grocery that it went in that register. And anything that
Yes.
was in that store, if I wanted it, I asked and paid for it. And if anyone tried to take anything, all 150 pounds of me was going to make
Yes,
sure you
sir.
paid for it. So that is the
Yes, sir.
best job that I've ever had, and no one can't tell me anything different.
Yes, sir. That's one of the beautiful things about shaping and molding youth. They remember those little things. And we operate Brother John's Grocery on principles. To show you how Allah blessed me, I knew, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, to be honest and operate our businesses with integrity. Now, Brother John's Grocery, we're doing so much business for a small neighborhood grocery store, and we're dealing with a lot of food stamps. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm generating all this food stamp business because I'm located right outside Parkway Public Homes. And what I did to help the young mothers in Parkway, I would encourage them, rather than buy 1 pound, 2 pound of chicken wings or chicken legs, I got the girls together and I instructed them, you girls put your food stamps together, buy a whole case of chicken wings. I'll buy the case, you pay them with the food stamp, you just take the case home and divide it. Well, that helped them and it helped me. But flags went up with the food stamp. Here's this little neighborhood store doing all this food stamp business. They sent an auditor down to my store to audit me. Because back then you had to tear the paper out. You had to tear the food stamps out. Wasn't those cards, you tore them out. So and all these food stamps had serial numbers. So apparently the powers that be thought that Brother John must be trading food stamps for money. They sent an auditor down to my store to audit me, a little neighborhood store.
Mm-hmm.
I had to take off from work to sit with this auditor to go over my books to show you how God works. I instructed you, like all my other, ring everything up in the register. So I had all my registered receipts. I had all my expense receipts. The auditor came down there, sat with me, went over my books. At the end of that audit, you know what this man told me? Now, I just got a high school education. He said, Brother John, you keep excellent records. That's what he told me. And then he added this on. He said, you are as honest as the day is long. He didn't have to say that.
Right.
That's what this auditor told me. And he was an elderly man. You couldn't hide nothing on the books from him if you tried. But God always told us, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us, to operate with integrity. Keep your nose clean. Be honest. You always heard it. A good name is worth what? More than gold. I live by
Right.
those principles. I'm not an angel. I got faults, just like all of us. But we strive to be upright. And that man told me that. He said, Brother John, you keep excellent records, and you are honest as the day is long. And I taught those principles to everybody that came in Brother John's grocery. I taught it to my children, and I taught it to everybody in the neighborhood. And it had an impact.
Brother John, also you've had so many positive experiences with people. Another family member and helper with your store that always popped in my mind was your brother Terry.
Yes.
I really enjoyed working with him. I miss him, and
Yes.
he would come to my place and say, here is your payout, and thank you, for helping us, with this store. And he would come in there late at night, and I imagine he had another job, because I would work until about 10, 11 o'clock when the store would close, if you remember. He would always make sure that I was okay and everything was running smoothly. And also Sister Olga, your daughter. So those are the people that I, really remember, and I thank him for his contribution to make your store run smoothly.
Yeah, and I want to dispel this myth that family cannot work together. Every last one of my family members, just about every last one of them, worked in Brother John's grocery. I gave them an opportunity. I held them accountable. And just like you did, brother, they saw to it that every penny got ringed in that cash register. Because if you put faith and trust in people and let them know that you trust them, you have their interest at heart. Like you said, it wasn't about the money, it was the loyalty. It was you could feel the love that the people had at Brother John's grocery. It was a neighborhood store. And like I said, children from that neighborhood worked in that store. And God blessed us to be very, very successful and had an impact in the city of York. There's many articles in the newspaper about the different activities that Brother John's Grocery sponsored for the neighborhood. And I'm not bragging. I'm explaining to you how I live my faith. I do not take it lightly. You can ask and get anything from me, but you can't take nothing from me. A lot of times they think to be religious means to be weak. No. To be religious is to stand on religious principles. Like we're taught in Islam. Hadith. If you see a wrong, change it with your hand. And if you're unable to do that, change it with your tongue. And if you're unable to do that, then at least change it within your heart. But that's the weakest of faith. An example, I'm Muslim. I see a wrong. A man is attacking a woman. My first obligation is to go and aid physical help to that woman to try to get that attacker off of that young lady. So if I see her wrong, I try to do something about it immediately. But if I'm unable to do that, for some reason I'm afraid, or I don't think I can handle that physically, my next step is to call out, draw attention to it. Hey, bring attention to it. Try to get people, shed light on this man is attacking or robbing this woman or this man. So I'm speaking out with my tongue. But if I'm too weak to do that, I see wrong and walk right past it. We say in Islam, pardon me, brother, I'm dealing with this phone. We see that wrong and we just walk past it. In our faith, that's the weakest of faith. And that's what a lot of people are doing in the world today. They see wrong and they walk past it. I say this to my Muslim brothers in the East. You see wrong over there with ISIS and all those other things. You brothers should be speaking up. The Americans shouldn't have to do that. You Muslim brothers should get together, dialogue, and go against that wrong. That is putting a big eyesore on Islam. We don't tolerate that. We don't tolerate. And when we sit back and say nothing, we condone it. So I'm not getting in the international arena, but I'm just saying, Muslims, when they see wrong, I don't get. Allah tells us in our holy book, the Quran, stand up for justice, even if it's against yourself. If you're wrong, you got to correct self.
Mm-hmm.
Stand up for justice. A great young man, Michael Jackson. Allah says to us, He has put signs in the heavens, He has put signs in the earth, as well as within ourselves. A lot of the entertainers give us great words of wisdom, and we pay no attention to them. Michael Jackson, what did he say? I'm starting with who? The man in the mirror. Mm-hmm. How many of us look in the mirror and not excuse ourselves, but charge ourselves? That's what we got to do. We got to be just. Islam stands up for justice. Mm-hmm. That's what drew me to Islam. That's what I hold on to. And I do what? I invite all of them, all the people that I run into, take a look at the Muslim community. But those that are living up to the principles. Because the Bible said what? A tree is known by the fruit it bears. A man is known by his works. And if you're not living up to those principles, the Bible gives you another word. They're called what? Hypocrites. I didn't say it. Scripture says that. I don't condemn you. You condemn yourself based on your behavior. And believe me, the world is watching.
And thank you for them words of wisdom, Brother John. And finishing up, I just want to thank your beautiful daughter, Amina, for taking time out her schedule to make sure that we made this work. We had a little, glitches, but I think, like she said,
yes,
God made it work this way because we're getting a lot of positive responses. So I want to thank Amina. I want to thank your grandson. I'm not too familiar, but the next time I come there, I want to meet with your family. And I want to do a part 2 of this, but in person. Then we don't have to worry about this part. I want to do a part 2 of this in person. If God blesses me to make it back there, to York, I want to talk with you in person and do a part 2 of this because you have so much wisdom to share. So salute, Sister Amina. Salute your grandson, your granddaughter, which was Amina's daughter. I heard her little pretty voice.
Yes, sir.
In the background.
Brother, I salute you too.
Yes, and finishing out one more point, brother. What do you think is the biggest misunderstanding in Islam? That's one. And if someone was interested in Islam, why should they come to it, especially coming from a black person's point of view?
Yes, sir. We need to tell our stories. And inshallah, I intend to, a lot of people have been saying, Brother John, you need to write a book. And Imam Warthi Muhammad, when he came into office, he told us we have to write our history. If we don't write it, it won't get written or won't be told properly. So inshallah, I'm trying to get up the nerve. I only got a 12th grade education, but I'm going to do my best, and maybe Allah bless me to pen a book to share my life with the human family, actually, because it's a human story, just through the eyes of an African American who answered been 400 years of oppression. That makes a difference.
On that point, Brother John, just today, and then we'll finish out. I was on a street today here in Durham, North Carolina. It's called Hollow. Ask anyone here in Durham. It is the worst street and one of the worst neighborhoods in Durham. It's people taking drugs, on drugs and alcohol and prostitution all up and down the street. and I have to pass through there going to work because I work in the school system. But something told me today, why am I keep passing by my people and just looking? So
Yeah.
I got out the car by myself, no weapons, no brothers or nothing with me, and I went and talked with them. And the stories that they told me was absolutely horrific. And I'm not putting anyone down, but it connected with what you just said. I parked in a parking lot because it's very hard to park there. In the parking lot that I parked in is the back parking lot to a church. And a man, I guess he was the pastor, he came out and said, he was kind of rude. He said, what are you doing parking here? I said, well, I want to go talk to those people there.
Yes.
Brother,
We're having,
okay.
we're having a little transmission problems, but I'm listening, brother.
All right. Well, I'm gonna finish out. He said, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. I got you now.
Yes. He said, so I was in this parking lot and he said, what are you doing in this parking lot? I said, I want to go talk to these people. He said, are you going to do it in a Christian way? If not, you got to go. I said, well, I want to do it in a human way because it's human beings standing there. But I left his parking lot to keep the friction down. So all this division in religion and being dogmatic, that's what I like about you. You, no matter who you were serving, was you able to catch that, Brother John?
Yes, sir. I said we're having a little transmission problem. Sometimes the power to be, they may not want this message to get out. They control everything. So they may be throwing a wrench in our transmission here. I pray that's not the case, but it was coming through pretty good there for a while. But a lot of times people don't want us to tell our stories because of the hardship we went through.
Mm-hmm.
But we do the best
I wasn't
we can,
going there
brother.
any religion. Yeah, I wasn't going there to preach any religion to them. I was just going to see how, we could just support them because I know they're going through a lot. But I always respect that about you. You never said, well, I'll help you if you're a Muslim or I'll help you if you believe what I believe. You just serve the people. And we can kind of finish out on how you just serve the people no matter what their religion was. And we can finish out.
Right.
I don't want to hold you any.
That's the key. That's the key. I have friends from all walks of life, Christian, Jews, Caucasians, Asians, because we do not discriminate in Islam. We're part of one human family. And we all got problems trying to make it through this world. So we do the best we can with what we got. But we have to have love and compassion for people. And that's the key.
Brother John.
We know Prophet Muhammad is the universal prophet. So he came to all humanity. And his message for all humanity.
Well, Brother John, it's been a pleasure. I love you, brother. You've been an inspiration to me. My father isn't here. No one can replace him, but one to look at as a father figure. You're the one, brother. You're the one. So we're going to do a part 2 of this, but in person. We're going to do it in person if God wants me to come to York. And then it'll be much clearer, and we'll send it out to the people just like we're going to do this. So to people who are listening, this is the Hour of Power. It's my YouTube channel. Go to Hour of Power, Shareef Hamid on YouTube, ShareefHameed, and subscribe and share the channel. I have many other messages and interviews with other people in the community all around, and I'll be doing one tomorrow night with a brother by the name of a brother Malik. He's a rising hip-hop artist. So thank you again, Brother John, for your time.
Yes.
We're going to repost this, and again, we're looking forward to a part 2 in person. And we can have an audience there if you want so they can answer questions. Up a little bit there, but we'll end out. And thank you for your time, Brother John, and thank your family for helping us make this happen. Peace and blessings, family. I'm going to sign out.
All right, we're having a little communication problem, so we'll sign off. Brother John signing off, and God willing, inshallah, we may do a part 2. But it's been a pleasure for me sharing some of the things that I've shared with the community this evening, and inshallah, God willing, we'll do part 2. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you.